Selfish means prioritizing Africa first. It means processing our minerals on African soil instead of exporting them raw. It means turning our agricultural output into finished products before it leaves our borders. It means manufacturing our own pharmaceuticals to secure health sovereignty. It means demanding fair terms in every agreement, rejecting exploitation disguised as aid, negotiating from collective strength, not inherited weakness. Now imagine this. What if the most important geopolitical shift in West Africa didn't happen at a summit? Not in a palace, not in a military barracks, but on a road no one was watching? What if the real transformation in the Sahel isn't about coups or speeches, but about trucks quietly changing direction? Because that's exactly what happened. How the lock was built. The Sahel did not wake up one day dependent on a single corridor to the sea. That structure was layered over time. During colonial rule, railways in West Africa were not designed to connect African economies to one another. They were extraction lines. Tracks ran from inland resource zones straight to coastal ports. Gold, cotton, livestock, uranium, everything flowed outward. The interior was meant to supply. The coast was meant to ship. After independence, the physical structure remained. Roads expanded along the same axis. Ports modernized around the same trade logic. Insurance companies priced risk around familiar corridors. Freight companies optimized for those routes. Over time, this created path dependency. Countries like Niger moved most imports through southern coastal gateways. Burkina Faso and Mali did the same. Fuel, food, machinery, medicine, everything passed through narrow channels toward the sea. Economically, it was rational. Concentrated routes are efficient. But efficiency creates concentration. Concentration creates dependency. And dependency creates leverage. If 70% of your essential imports pass through one corridor, that corridor is no longer just infrastructure. It becomes quiet power. When the system was tested, for years, this funnel architecture worked smoothly. Its fragility remained invisible. Until it didn't. After the 2023 coup in Niger, the regional bloc economic community of West African states imposed sanctions. Borders tightened. Financial transactions were restricted. Airspace limitations followed. But the real shock was logistical. Fuel convoys slowed. Trucks idled at crossings. Import timelines stretched. What once felt automatic became conditional. That moment didn't create vulnerability. It revealed it. And once vulnerability becomes visible, systems must adapt. The quiet recalculation. Instead of collapsing into paralysis, the Sahel recalculated. Niger accelerated alternative access through the port of Lomé in Togo. Ghanaian corridors gained relevance. Transit convoys were rerouted. Customs agreements were revised. Military escorts reorganized longer inland journeys. Burkina Faso and Mali diversified routes as well. Conversations about northern access intensified. Some routes were longer, some more expensive per kilometer. But strategic cost is not always the same as economic cost. The old model prioritized efficiency. The new model prioritized resilience. That difference changed everything. If 80% of imports depend on one corridor, disruption becomes existential. But if that concentration drops to 50%, then 40%, then 30%, the system stabilizes differently. Insurance companies notice diversification. Freight markets reprice risk. Investors see flexibility instead of fragility. This wasn't emotional retaliation. It was structural correction. Funnels versus networks. For decades, West Africa operated like a funnel. Extract inland. Ship outward. The interior fed the coast. The coast controlled access. When inland states diversified maritime corridors, they shifted from a funnel to a network. And networks distribute power. Ports along the coast quickly notice transit shifts. Even a 15 to 20% volume change matters in port management. It affects revenue, staffing, forecasting, and infrastructure planning. Competition awakened. Transit fees became negotiable. Clearance speed improved. Diplomatic tone softened. This wasn't confrontation. It was market logic. When landlocked states have options, they negotiate differently. They compare tariffs. They evaluate processing times. They calculate political atmospheres. Choice reduces urgency. Reduced urgency strengthens posture. Redundancy creates bargaining symmetry. The psychological shift. For decades, the word landlocked sounded like a permanent limitation. It implied exposure, dependence, constraint. But when trucks continued moving despite sanctions, just along different roads, that framing cracked. Young people in Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali have lived through sanctions, debt cycles, and security crises. They are skeptical of slogans. They look for structural change. Diversified corridors are structural. When fuel still arrives despite political pressure, it sends a powerful message. The system is adjustable. Vulnerability is not permanent. Geography is not destiny. This echoes ideas once expressed by leaders like Thomas Sankara, that dignity begins with self-reliance and psychological liberation precedes economic liberation. Today's recalibration follows that spirit, but through logistics rather than ideology. Instead of rejecting corridors, the Sahel multiplied them. That distinction matters. It shows redesign, not rebellion. Why logistics is geopolitics. In the modern world, supply chains are geopolitical architecture. When the Suez Canal was blocked in 2021, global trade froze. When tensions rise near the Strait of Hormuz, energy markets tremble. Choke points define leverage.